Hey there, welcome to this episode of the Her Business Podcast. I'm your host, Susie Daphnis. I'm the CEO at Her Business, and I love today's topic. I am thrilled to have my good friend Shanna Bresnahan, an expert in community building and business growth, as my guest. Now, she's going to be sharing her insights on cultivating thriving communities. Now, why is this important? Here's what I know. As a business owner, creating a community around your work, around your business, is such a great leverage point. When we can discover how to connect with people and how to have our people connect with each other, we create a really, really special type of business. Now, of course, this has been my business since I first started my business. I've always been around creating communities. In my first business, it was about creating communities in the personal development and finance area. Since 1995, I've been creating this and growing this beautiful business community for women business owners. So this is very close to my heart. But more and more, I'm seeing members inside of our community grow their own communities and really thrive, really attracting your tribe. So we're going to be diving deep into the key elements of community building. We're going to be looking at culture, communication, and get ready to really discover some practical strategies to build authentic connections and to establish a supportive culture. Whether your community is a small one or a large one, it really doesn't matter. It's really about putting in place some of these generalized principles that Shanna has discovered in all her years of working with people to help grow thriving communities. Here's the good news. Community building is not about scheduling posts and finding the right images in a Facebook group. It's not that. It can be that, but it's about so much more than that. It's about getting people to speak to us and to connect with us and to connect with each other. I love this topic so much. I'm sure you can hear that from my voice. This interview is packed with valuable lessons and insights. So let's dive right in. Hey, Shanna, welcome to the summit.
Hey, thanks for having me, Susie. I'm happy to be here.
I am so excited to be talking about something that I'm very, very passionate about, and that is how to grow a thriving community for your business. And where I want to start is what even inspired you to make this the topic that you have gone out into the world with your business to support leaders all over the world to grow thriving communities?
You know, it's kind of funny because I've actually been speaking about online communities since back in 2008, if you can believe it or not.
Wow.
And I so happened to be in the marketing world, and I had a really great mentor that passed me a paper one day and was like, hey, you should really check out what's happening in this social media space. You know, what is social media? And I fell in love because I loved people. I loved connecting people. You know, people always call me like the neurons of the room. I'm always making connections. So when I found out that we could do this online and merge that with my marketing knowledge, I knew that brands and businesses could really take advantage of this. And it's just kind of grown as I've served different clients over the years and become more niche, really down to people who have online programs and want to leverage those communities specifically to help serve their customers better and keep them longer.
And you really are kind of the go-to person when it comes to how to create a thriving community. But why is community even important to us as business owners?
Oh, this is such a good question because it's getting more and more important, especially with what I'm calling and a lot of people are calling the age of AI and artificial intelligence. And content creation is really prolific. And what people are really starting to value is community. Why? Because, technology is never going to replace that innate human desire for connection. It will never go away. And so as a business, if you really want to make sure that you can survive as you move forward with all of this, you've really got to think about, how do I have that human element, that connection, that community element with what I'm doing? But even before all of that, we know all of the data says that if you have a thriving community, you're going to be able to get more conversions because your potential customers are going to trust you more. You're going to keep your customers longer because they build those deep, sticky connections with you, with your team, with other people in the community. And that those people tend to become your raving fans, your brand advocates that give you that free marketing machine of referrals.
And community is not just online, right? It can be an offline community as well. But I want to talk more about community because it's become a term that you and I hear a lot in our worlds. But how might a retailer think about community, or someone who doesn't perhaps perhaps, offer courses or memberships?
I love this because I've witnessed it myself. My husband's aunt had a small shop in Bismarck, North Dakota called Lillian's. And they built that entire shop around this idea of community. On Saturday, they had mimosas in the store. They had this big bell that you would ring whenever you made a purchase of a certain size. And it really became an event. I don't think there was a time that I was in there that I saw somebody shopping alone. In fact, it was always a mother and a daughter or two friends or sisters in there shopping. And so when we can create experiences within our store, I think that is a way to really create a great community because people want to come back for that experience, but also starting to make those connections where you're getting repeat customers because they feel connected to you, even outside of what's happening in the day-to-day of your store. So for people who have retail businesses, asking the question of how am I going to actually stay connected to these customers outside of this? Is it my Instagram account? Is it a special newsletter that's just for them? And how am I going to share something beyond just the sale and give them opportunities to come together and highlight my customers so that people see people like them shopping at my store?
I love that. And as we start to think about community, you've created a wonderful framework that you're going to walk us through today that really breaks down 4 essential areas that allow us to create a community that is strong, that is sticky. It means people want to stay a part of it, and that really grows and thrives and scales. You call it your community cultivated framework. Have I got that right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Tell us about the first element. I said there were 4. Tell us what the first element is and why it's so important.
The first element is cause, and it's really about having a common cause that your community shares and that really clear purpose. And I think so often we skip over this. We go through programs that, tell us like you need an avatar and you need to know how you're going to serve them. And I think a lot of people, fill out the one line on the worksheet and they move on. And this is one of the things I love about you and your work with Her Business is you put a lot of emphasis on this of really getting clear on who you're going to serve and how you're going to help. And having that clear purpose makes sure that we are aligned as a community working towards a common goal.
So that is cause, and that is a common goal. And it doesn't have to be, sometimes people hear the word cause, Shanna, and they think it has to be this, I don't know, life-changing.
Yeah, big mission.
Fight for our rights.
Save the world.
Build posters. But it's not that.
Right. Yeah, it's not that. It's just helping people get really clear on the purpose, giving them one clear direction. And ultimately, when we have that direction, you can take it even deeper and say, well, now that we know the purpose, what is the path for you to achieve that purpose? And then how are we going to help you recognize the progress? So when I think about a cause, I'm really thinking about that big picture of like, yes, I need to be the vision caster for my community. So clearly that other people can carry that vision forward even when I'm not around. And I want them to be able to see progress as an individual and as a community towards that common cause. And even for somebody like a retailer, I met with somebody one time when I was speaking at an event who had a boutique, and she said she struggled for a long time to get people into her boutique until she realized that her boutique was created because she couldn't find unique clothes and jewelry that fit her unique style in her town. And that she realized she wanted to cater to the woman who felt different and wanted to express her unique differences through their clothing and through what they were wearing. And so she went from just like, having this clothing boutique to having a very successful community of women who felt different than every other woman that you would typically see in a boutique and wanted to express that through what they wore.
And I bet the moment she connected with that vision, that passion that she had, everything changed. Everything 100%. About that changed. I got goosebumps just hearing that. The second element of your framework is called culture. And once again, this is an interesting word as we use it in a context of business and marketing. And we can think about corporate culture, but you're talking about creating something different when it comes to communities. Tell us 2 things about culture. How do I, create, what is culture? How do I create it? And if I already feel like I have a culture, how do I figure out what it is?
Yeah, that's so good.
Sorry, that's a lot.
No, I know, but it's great because you're asking all of the questions that people ask, and people will tell you that you need a culture, but nobody will give you some guidance on how to actually create that. They just, and then it just happens. And what I see with a lot of business owners is they turn around and they actually don't want to be involved in the community that they've created because the community just by default developed a culture and they were intentional about it, right? So I like to think of culture in really 3 clear buckets that will help you define it. And that first bucket are beliefs. What are my beliefs about our community and about what's possible for them? What are our beliefs about the industry? Oftentimes in your particular industry, you have beliefs about the way things are done that you want to do differently. What are your beliefs about the world? You kind of write all of these things out. We believe these things to be true. And that'll help give you a little bit of definition. But now we need to get practical with that. And so if these are the things that we believe, what behaviors stem from that? What are the things that we do differently than other people? Seth Godin says it really well. He says, people like us do things like this. Like, who are we? What do we do? And then if these are the behaviors, what are the boundaries? Because now that we know our core beliefs, now that we have established the behaviors that will not only uphold those beliefs, but help move us towards that common cause, right? Then what are the boundaries? What do we need to make sure we're not doing, that we're keeping out of our community to help protect that culture? And when we put all of those 3 things together and you define it, it actually becomes really obvious. When you look in your community, you will see seeds of culture everywhere. And then you just have to ask yourself, like, what are these seeds of culture that I really want to nourish, that are already there? What are the seeds of culture that need to get pruned out, get those removed? And then what do I maybe intentionally want to plant? So a good example of this is when I was working with Stu McLaren, we really wanted to create an emphasis on the community contributing and not just people looking at Stu like he was some wizard who was going to have all of the answers to every question that they had. We wanted them to see the genius of that community, just like you experience in her business. There's so much wisdom from you, but even more so in the community, right? That's the value. It's in the network of the people. So we actually created a theme called Better Together, and we started doing Better Together awards, and we started highlighting people who were, contributing within the community, and we started featuring people and having them share and teach what they were learning. So that was a very intentional thing that we did to build a culture of the community being elevated just as much as the leader.
I am such a community geek. I didn't know how much until we're having this conversation, because for over 28 years, I've, led this organization, Her Business, and there is definitely a culture, and it is something that I'm so proud when people come in, they know it's about collaboration and we're not competing with each other. They know that we have specific language, like our lift up moves. That is where you celebrate someone else's success. We have a culture of what we call showing up, and what that looks like inside of our community. And actually, I'm going to give your podcast a little plug here, because there is an episode that you might even know the number of that I listened to recently, which is very much about how do you recognize people within your community and reward them for demonstrating the behaviors that are part of your culture. Do you know which episode I'm talking about?
It's the gamification episode. So if you go to communitycreatorspodcast.com and you search for gamification, you'll find it. It was a recent one. It was in the 60s. I know that.
Yeah, I loved it. So that is culture. And so I want to talk about now the third part. So we've covered cause and culture. The third part of your framework is communication. And I would love to talk about communication because, one, I feel it's one of the skills that as business owners we need to get good at. And so often we can get it wrong when it comes to community, because we feel like we are the head of the organization and we need to be communicating and teaching and doing all that. How do you think about communication when it relates to community?
I think even just us talking about communication, immediately people are going, how do I write better emails? How do I create better social posts? We always think about the one-to-many audience style communication. And that is a part of it. Don't get me wrong. I call that the megaphone, and it's valuable because when you run a community, whether it is a store having events or, whether it's an online community, you're essentially a cruise director. You do need to be really good at creating compelling and concise information to make sure that people take advantage of the things that you have going on, right? That is valuable. But what we forget are the other two types of communication, which are, incoming, which is I'm going to ask you, community member, what you care about, what you're liking, what you don't like, get your feedback. What are your challenges? And I'm not just going to ask you because it creates great engagement on a Facebook post, but I'm actually going to listen and I'm going to hear you and I'm going to care about that. And that incoming communication, which is more of like that mailbox, that's something that happens by default, but we as business leaders really need to get really good at requesting that, if you will, requesting that kind of information from our community. And then that third type of communication, which is more of like the walkie-talkie, the back and forth, the engagement that happens among our members. Again, as business owners, we think if we build it, they will come. If we put them all in a group together or all in a room together or whatever it might be, they are going to talk. But that's not how it works. So we need to become really good at facilitating connection and conversation as well, which you're really great at. And I love how you do your calls inside of her business, where not only can they learn, but they also get the opportunity to break out into smaller sessions and connect. And you facilitate that so well. And it's a really important skill that people need to develop. And honestly, I'm seeing a shift in businesses overall where they're really community-built products, where people are building the community first, and then they're asking questions of their community. They're listening, they're getting to know them, and then they're designing programs and products that are exactly what they want.
There is so much gold there when we speak to our clients and using their language. And I know you're a big fan of surveys, right?
Yes, huge fan of surveys.
I love it. Whether it's a one-question survey, whether it's something a little more in-depth, we are always reaching out, whether we're thinking about launching a new something or doing a promotion or tweaking an offer. I never want to make it up because I'm likely going to get it wrong. But when I can ask people, when I can use that mailbox, is that the right one? That's the mailbox, right? Yeah. And so it's like asking you, what do you think about that? What troubles you about that? What's your biggest frustration with that? And there's so many more permutations, but knowing that communicating with our community isn't about just scheduling our posts and finding the right images and turning up live on a Monday to do our Monday madness or whatever we're going to call it. But it's also incorporating those two other things that Shanna has so beautifully spelled out, which is getting people to speak to us and then connecting them with each other. And Shanna, I have found that is the gold in our community. I can know what I know and share my expertise of all the businesses I've grown, etc. But it's nothing compared to a business owner who's growing and scaling a business, speaking with another business owner who's growing and scaling a business about what's working, what's not working, what tools they're using, referring each other, collaborating with each other. That's the value of our community. And I think that's the value in the communities that you see that are thriving.
100%. And the nice thing is that as a business owner, then you get to become, you feel like more of a facilitator, if you will, than you do like this expert, this leader. And in doing so, the community actually becomes way more valuable than it does alone. And I think the nice thing is that when you curate a really great community and you cultivate the things that we're talking about, this great culture and, some other pieces that we're about to talk about, that you design something that is like this unique spot in the world where people can come and they can find people like them and they can feel like they belong and they can be encouraged and moved and motivated and guided towards a better, a newer, a more, a different version of themselves or towards their life and a different experience. And I just think it's so incredible. I still just, I was, when we were actually messaging earlier today, I just had this moment where I just thought, how cool that you're in Australia, I'm over here in Nashville, and in just a moment in time, we can connect in like 2 seconds. It's so incredible what is possible for us when it comes to connecting people these days.
I love that. And that leads right to what is the fourth part of your framework, which is connection. Now, connection is one of my favorite words. Way back when, people used to think about us as a networking group, and I just never gelled with it because there are so many connotations. And so we've renamed ourselves Connection Network, where it's about connections and real relationships, and relationships with me as their mentor, women connecting with my team as people who can help them out and show them the lay of the land, and then connecting with each other, which is kind of what we touched on. So talk to me about this fourth part of your framework, and what's important about how we connect with our clients and prospects.
Yeah, I find connection is where most people want to start. They think community equals connection, right? Which is why it's last, because those other three elements are really essential for connection. Why? Because connection doesn't happen, and it definitely doesn't go deep, and it doesn't last if it's not built on a foundation of safety. That's what we forget. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, basic psychological principles. We have physical needs at the bottom, and then we have psychological safety, and then we have belonging. And that builds. We can't have this feeling of connection and belonging without first having that feeling of psychological safety. And to create safety, we really need leadership. We really need clarity. And so these other aspects of having a common cause that we're casting that vision for, of having a really clear culture where people feel like, I know the rules here. I know how to play on this playground, right? And I also can trust that people who don't want to play on this playground the way we want to play on this playground aren't going to be able to stay, because there's a certain, way that we operate around here to help people to feel safe. And then there's clarity in the communication that's happening. When we do all of those things well, and we show up authentically as a leader, not 100% transparently, that there's a big difference between transparency and authenticity. But when we show up and we are who we say we are, and we do what we say we're going to do, that authenticity and integrity piece, we create that trust that's required for safety. And we have to have the safety before connection can actually happen.
That is such a key part that people don't talk about. Like you said, we think, I'm going to put them all together. They're going to connect with me. But feeling safe, feeling like there's a friend in the room.
Right.
That is so important because if I think about, like, ours is an online community, and while we do some in-person meetings, a lot of it is online. So someone new comes in and they're stepping into this world. How do we quickly allow them to feel like there's a friend in the room? That is, for me, that is a puzzle to find that missing piece for. Like, that excites me, to find ways to have people feel as quickly as possible like they belong, and they can start to contribute. They can start to ask questions. They can know some people. They can become known, liked, and trusted for who they are. I'm just geeking out. I'm loving this.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is like you just talked about, like, when they first get in the room, right? The first time they visit your store, the first time they join your group or your program or whatever it might be. And that's our opportunity to either multiply their financial impact in our business or lose them. One of two things are going to happen. Either they're going to walk in, they're not going to feel seen, heard, respected. They're not going to feel safe. They're not going to feel connected, or they are, and they're going to continue with you forever because they have that connection. And so it's really important. And I love how you're saying you're always thinking about how can I make that connection and help them feel like there's a friend in the room, because the first time somebody comes into your store, the first 21 days of them being in your program are 100% where the most energy should go, because that's where safety can very quickly be broken or be built. And when we lose trust with a customer, it's virtually impossible to build it back, because there are so many options for them these days. You're not the only game in town. If you are, take advantage of it while you can, but chances are you're not. So we really have to focus on building trust. In our house, we call it strengthening the rope. But every time we step out of authenticity or step out of integrity, that rope gets frayed, right? And it's just not as strong. We want to keep that rope really strong, so that when we do all of the fun tactics and things like that around connection, people are ready for it. They're ready to take advantage of that.
we have known each other for a couple of years now, maybe more than a couple actually. And I've seen you start to work with clients one-on-one, be the go-to person for industry leaders who really want to grow thriving communities. And I want to talk about your business. Would that be okay?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
So I know it's been growing. I've kind of been we were in the mastermind together. And so we know each other kind of. Yeah. And what I know is that you are growing really, really quickly. And like most business owners, you're navigating what is the right business model for me and what's the best way for me to make my services and my expertise available to others. Now, I want to go back a minute and say, when you hit the first $100,000, a benchmark that we kind of help women go from there onwards, what decisions did you make about the possibilities for your business at that point?
You know, I have to be honest, because I think oftentimes we want to think we hit that 100K and then like the sky is blue, everything is clear, and we know what to do next. But honestly, I became a full-time entrepreneur in 2012, so over a decade ago. And when I hit my first six figures, I panicked. And I self-sabotaged. I didn't know what to do. I had a great consulting business. All I needed to do to grow was actually start networking and trying to get business. It had just kind of fallen in my lap with the relationships that I had at the time. And instead I was like, well, I want to make more money, so I'm going to go start a second business. And I started the second business that really ended up cannibalizing my first business. And I made all sorts of mistakes. Why? I didn't have a community of other women or even men that were trying to build a business. I knew no other business owners other than occasionally I would go to a networking event and I would, meet people there, but there was no lasting connection. There weren't people that knew my business inside and out, that knew what I was trying to do and how I was trying to bring my husband home from teaching so he could homeschool and all these sort of things. So when I was making those decisions, I was making them alone. And I really looking back, made some really poor decisions. Now they led me down a nice road and path that's led me to this place where I am really clear about what I want to do and what I don't want to do. But when I hit six figures in this version of my business, if you will, that's when for me, the question was, okay, what is going to light me up the most? I think we do the formula of building a business in whatever industry it is to get us to a place where we're confident that we can do this. And once we have that confidence, it opens up this door of, well, but now how do I want to do it? Now that I know that I can, now that I know I can help these people and serve them and they'll pay for my services, how do I design this in a way that doesn't just serve them, but serves me? And, multiple six figures later, like that's the season I'm in right now, is really going, how do I design this in a way that not just serves them, but serves me, and test some different things to really figure that out. And that'll probably change in different seasons of my life. And I'm giving myself permission to shift in that way. But this business has grown so much faster because I'm in community, because I have people guiding me, because I have mentors in my life, and people like you and PJ, I love PJ as well, who have really helped shape for me and have honestly fast-tracked for me the growth that I've experienced just in the last couple of years.
Thank you so much for being so open about your path, because we can always just paint the picture of where we are now, but knowing that you went through this to get to where you are now and the clarity that that's brought is just so inspiring. I know that PJ and I love you very much as well, and are just so grateful for the contribution that you've made already in our relationship. And I just wanted to say that. I also want to say that you hit on a couple of things. One is surrounding ourselves with people who are also growing and scaling businesses. So essential. The same for me. In the first year of business, where we were going backwards really quickly, what was missing was having sounding boards, was having other people who could refer business to us, who understood what we were going through. And that, for me, is part of the reason why I do what I do. You also touched on something else, and that is on sustainability. And I mean that from us having the opportunity to grow businesses that thrive but can burn us out, or businesses that actually sustain us. And so they're sustainable in that we have a great business model, but they're also sustaining us. They're not robbing us of our joy, which I've heard some women say, and it just breaks my heart a little bit. So you mentioned you have mentors, you have accountability. We know we've been in the mastermind together. Tell me, I know you're starting a coaching program, and that's going to be available very, very soon. What else is in your vision for a growth path for your business? That's part one. And what skills or mindset do you feel you might need to uphold to reach that next level?
Oh, this is you're challenging me. It's like I'm getting coached by Susie right now. It's so fun. I have my core thing is my course, which I developed to be an evergreen course with some evergreen support, if you can, built into it. But that's that core community training course. And I have not served that course well, if you will. I have not done a good job of promoting it. And I think there's a fear from a mindset perspective of investing marketing dollars into that, because I see, business owners who invest and it works or it doesn't work. And so that's definitely an area of growth that I need for myself, is being willing to put some ad dollars at this point in my journey behind this program that people love. If they know about it and it's a fit for them, they join it, they go through it, they love it, they get results, but I'm just not getting it in front of enough people. And so I want to get more comfortable with that. And then when I look at what I've done with one-on-one consulting, it's been really great, but I'm starting to pull back from that to try and grow this other program. There's always some fear around that. But the thing that in particularly has been on my mind is kind of going back to what you talked about, sustainability. And there's a couple things I think about sustainability. One is profit margin, which most people don't talk, we have all these memberships and programs people are in. They talk about how much everybody makes, but very few of them talk about the profit. Absolutely. And I know that's something that you all really emphasize is we're not going to just make money. We're actually going to get to put money in our pocket as well, which is really nice. And I've spent the last couple of years really, really focusing on profit margin. But I think now I'm in a season of where I really want to focus on time margin. I have 3 young kids. I have a young grandbaby as well. And just in this season of life, giving myself time margin and saying, you know what? Maybe I'm not trying to build a $10 million business. Maybe I'm just trying to get to a place where our family has, the money we need. We have some money to play, some money to invest, and mom isn't working late hours. Mom isn't, killing herself or working on the weekends, trying to make all of these things happen. So I'm kind of getting into this shift from a mindset perspective where time boundaries are going to come first, and the revenue will have to flow and fit around those time boundaries. And it's actually really starting to create some really awesome creativity because I've given myself those time boundaries.
Yeah, those constraints can get us to become really creative, really innovative. So I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised what you can achieve once you draw a line in the sand. There was an African-American preacher out of New York, and he used to say, be definite with the infinite. So when you can have anything, what are the boundaries that you're going to set? And I think so often as business owners, we think it's boundaryless. I work when I need to work, and whenever my business needs anything, I'm available. But if we can be definite with the infinite, this is what I'm doing, then I feel like something changes in our thinking, in our ability to create. So I hope that's useful for you.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about the course that you have, because I know that you're making a special discount available to members of the Her Business Network. So take us just really quickly with what could people expect to gain or understand or learn from taking part in your course?
Yeah, I think I always start by saying this is not a how to manage a Facebook group course, because that's what people think about when they think about community. It's going deeper on those 4 elements we just talked about. It's looking at how do I go from feeling like I am just throwing spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks when it comes to creating community, or waiting around to just put people in a room and see what happens, if you will. Or maybe you have a community and you feel like you're constantly behind the eight ball. You feel like you're reacting all the time and you're ready to get to a place where you actually have a strategy and you're able to be proactive in your community management, whether that's you or whether you have a team leader like a community manager that's supporting you. This course is with really short bite-sized lessons and straight to the point templates. It's all there, but it's really just focused on that strategic side of proactive community cultivation.
Love it. We're going to put the details for that right here where you are watching this interview. Shanna, at Her Business, we have a tagline and it is do what you love every day. What does doing what you love every day look like in your business?
Super simple. If I get to use the gifts and talents that God has given me to serve other people, I am absolutely in love with that. And if in doing so, I am also able to have energy and time to be with the friends and the family that I love, then that to me, that the combination of those two things is a business that I love. Using the gifts I've been given to serve people and help them and have the time and space to invest in the people that I love.
Yes to that. Shanna, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I am such a fan of Shanna. She's so full of wisdom and she really has become the go-to person for course creators, membership site owners, business leaders who really recognize the leverage and richness that comes from growing a community. I love this quote. She said, building a thriving community is not just about scheduling posts and finding the right images. It's about getting people to speak to us and connecting them with each other. That's the gold in our community. I think that's my favorite quote in the whole interview. So I encourage you to start cultivating your community, large or small, today, because you're going to see the impact it'll have on your business. Now, I'm going to put some links to Shanna's work over at herbusiness.com/243. This is episode 243. So if you head over to 243, be sure to check out her Cultivate course and her new coaching program. And if you want to join an existing community for women business owners, one where you're going to find like-minded connections, which means you never have to feel like you're growing your business on your own, then you want to get inside the Her Business Network. If you're not already a member, you can learn more over at herbusinessnetwork.com. I'll put those details over on our show notes page where I've put Shanna's information. And once again, that is herbusinessnetwork.com/243. Thank you for joining us. If you don't already subscribe to the show, go ahead and click that subscribe button. We have more great interviews and podcast episodes coming up. I love doing this show for you. I appreciate you listening. I would super appreciate it if you wanted to share the show with another woman business owner. We want to get the word out to as many women as possible. And if you really enjoyed the episode, do me a favor and head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating or review. I would really appreciate it. Join me next time right here on the Her Business Podcast. Bye for now.